Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's 4 o'clock, so welcome to this meeting of Cabinet. Can I say to you, first of all, apologies. We have apologies from Councillor Mrs Beer, Councillor Mrs Bowyer, both of whom are otherwise engaged. So that's the reason for the gap over there, which, interestingly, I see you two have divided. Not quite sure what that means, but hey-ho. So we'll move swiftly on. Declarations of interest. Has anyone got any declarations they need or want to make in respect to anything on the agenda this afternoon? No? Okay, thank you. So minutes of the meeting held on the 31st of October. You've had a chance to read them. Is everyone happy that they're accurate? Yes? Right, okay, so we'll accept those minutes then. Thank you very much. I'll sign those later. Questions from the public. We have one question here, and it's from a Mr Nichol. It's addressed to Councillor Nicholson. Mr Nichol not here this afternoon, so we'll adopt our usual procedure and send him a written response. Everyone happy with that? Great. Thank you very much. Okay. Chair's urgent business. I have none, so that brings us conveniently into Item 6, Unauthorised Encampment Policy and Procedure. Councillor Downey, I'll ask you to lead this one, and welcome to Melissa Collier and Matt Garrett, who I know are here to provide us with some technical details. Thank you.
Leader, thank you very much. Colleagues, as you are no doubt aware, Plymouth City Council is responsible for dealing with unauthorised Gypsy, Roma and Traveller encampments on land owned by us, the Council. Since April this year, we have experienced 23 unauthorised encampments across the city, with the most recent one being only 2 days ago. Managing those unauthorised encampments takes considerable financial and personnel resources to regain possession of the land and to provide site clear-up after the travellers have left. There is currently no authorised space for the travelling community to use, and as we have seen, unauthorised encampments will continue year after year. However, the lack of a suitable policy severely hampers the Council's ability to manage unauthorised encampments and prevents the police from using their powers to move on encampments. Therefore, colleagues, we need a new policy and a new approach, one based on the need to uphold the law and to prevent unlawful occupation of land whilst meeting the needs of communities. The aim of this policy, therefore, is to address the need for an effective approach to the management of unauthorised encampments on PCC land. In doing so, we will ensure that the rights of Plymouth's local settled community are met, alongside our statutory obligation to the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller communities, whilst reducing the impact of unauthorised encampments on this city. To enable this to happen then, I propose the use of temporary and negotiated stopping places to direct Gypsy, Roma and Travellers to when they visit our city. This presents us with the opportunity to strengthen the use of our powers to deal with unauthorised encampments and supports the use of powers by our partners, namely Devon and Cornwall Police. To date, we have undertaken and will continue to undertake target hardening of identified sites, and we plan to introduce public space protection orders on sites with a high frequency of unauthorised access. This combination of measures are designed to avoid the need for PCC to take action through the courts to regain possession of land, which has proven to be resource intensive and very expensive. Therefore, Leader, I recommend to Cabinet that they approve the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller unauthorised encampment policy, subject to consultation and consideration of feedback from the relevant scrutiny committee, and that Cabinet instructs officers to identify sites for temporary stopping places once a joint local plan inspection has been completed, and to bring those sites back to Cabinet for final approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Downey. That, I think, is clear. Melissa or Matt, do you have anything further to add? Or perhaps I could ask you just to clarify. I remember when Councillor Darcy and I sat on a scrutiny panel some time ago, we were frustrated in that we couldn't make progress due to the unwillingness of the police to actually follow the law. So can you give me some measure of further confidence and assurance that under this policy the police will act and do so promptly?
The conversations have happened already with our police colleagues, and they've shown considerable support for adjusting their working practices as existing, should we have an alternative to offer the Gypsy Roma and Traveller community. Those conversations will continue with the progress of, hopefully, with this policy, but certainly they've happened, and there is support.
Thank you, Melissa. Is that, are we sure that that support is there on a continuous basis and isn't just at the, shall we say, the behest of the current Chief Superintendent? Were there to be any change in personnel, can we still be confident that the support will continue?
I would find that too difficult to answer, I think. I think I can only answer for the current situation and the conversations that have happened of recent.
Okay, thank you for that. Colleagues, any other questions? Councillor Jordan?
Thank you, Leader. It's more a comment, I'm going to say, and support to the policy, because I think this is an issue that seems to have not been taken seriously for many years. I'm going to say, and I know it's a problem. It's been a problem in my ward, and I know it's been a problem in many wards across the city. So actually taking any action that is actually going to speed up and protect the communities within the city is going to be very much welcome, not just by myself, but I know from the communities around that I represent.
Thank you, Glenn. Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Leader. Well, I wholeheartedly agree with Councillor Jordan and the recommendations that Councillor Downey is moving today. I think, you know, it's behoving this council to actually lead by example and actually try and resolve the situation. For far too long, really, we've just not been proactive enough as councillors to actually address the real concerns of the local community, and to move forward on this basis, I think, will be to everyone's satisfaction, not only to the community at large, but also probably for those hopefully temporary Gypsy travellers who decide to come to Plymouth for a short space of time. Hopefully it will encourage them, perhaps in not quite such large numbers actually coming on a regular basis, but perhaps deciding to go elsewhere. But if they do come, knowing that they can stop for a short space of time on a site that is more convenient for their use. So I welcome that. I couldn't, apologies, I haven't actually raised this before. But just for pure accuracy, the joint local plan, it's an examination, not an inspection. Inspection regimes, I think some of us as members shiver with the thought of an inspection. Could I suggest we call it in the recommendation, Lead, an examination? Because in actual fact, that's what it is. I would propose that we just amend that one word in the recommendation, if you're happy.
Thank you, Patrick. So just to recap there then, we changed the word inspection in recommendation 2 to examination. Everyone happy with that? Right, okay. I mean, I think this is the right thing to do, and thank you to Matt and Alyssa for your work in putting this together. It's been an issue for this council for some time, and we've struggled to come up with a workable policy. I very much hope that this will balance the interests of both local residents and travellers and the travelling community generally. There is a balance to be struck here, but I think we're all very, very acutely aware of what local residents tell us on the doorstep, so I hope this will provide reassurance for both sides. So, without further ado then, if anyone has any further points they want to raise? No? Can I just draw your attention then to the recommendations? There are 2 there, and can I ask for your support for those recommendations, please? Thank you, that's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Melissa. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the Corporate Finance Monitoring Report, Quarter 2. Councillor Darcy.
Thank you, Leader. Colleagues, I wish to present to you the Capital and Revenue Monitoring Report, which sets out the financial position of the Council as at the end of September 2017. As you will be aware, the report has already been presented to full Council, which was before today's Cabinet meeting in order to provide all Council members with the most up-to-date information on the Council's finances. Whilst I appreciate that meeting was only a few days ago, I think it's important that I alight on just the key items, as we had quite a good debate about this, as I said, full Council meeting. But in respect to the revenue budget, Leader, I reported to Council the forecast revenue outturn position is indicating an overspend of 3.2 million, which in percentage terms is 1.78% variance against the improved budget of 183 million. I informed Council that we will endeavour to report a balanced budget position throughout the year, but Cabinet members are aware the latest forecast position needs to be viewed in the context of having to deliver in excess of £18 million of saving this year, following on from the £24 million of savings that were delivered in the previous year. These are quite substantial savings, and I think it's important that we have cognizance of that, and the impact of these should not be underestimated. I am pleased to report, Leader, progress is being made. There has been a reduction from the position reported at Q1, which was indicating a £4.2 million overspend. Delivery of a balanced budget is challenging. Our position is not different, of course, to other unitary and upper-tier authorities throughout the country. In meeting this challenge, we will, of course, continue to explore all solutions to make best use of our limited resources and continue to deliver and implement the Council's transformation programme. As mentioned at full Council, Leader, the main budget pressure identified is within the People Directorate and reflects costs and volume pressures which are being experienced in local authorities throughout the country. It's certainly not unique to Plymouth. In recognition of these pressures and the impact these will have in future years, the Leader has corresponded with the Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government, expressing his concerns on behalf of the Council as to the availability of financial resources. We very much look forward to the Secretary of State's response in respect of that matter. The main challenges faced by the People Directorate are primarily due to cost and volume pressures within both children's services and adults. Our ongoing and successful partnership with health colleagues continue to mitigate the pressures within adult social care, and within children's services the review of all placements and preventative work has ensured the overall position remains stable. Other pressures include increased demand for temporary accommodation and costs related to the use of bed and breakfast placements. As this is a new emerging pressure, provision has been made for these increased costs in the medium-term financial strategy. An improving position has been reported for the Place Directorate when compared to Q1, and I hope this improvement will continue as we move into the second half of the financial year. The Transformation and Change Directorate will be continuing to drive out efficiencies and savings to reduce their projected overspend position. In summary, Leader, there will be significant financial challenges as we move into the final months of this financial year. Members and officers will continue to work hard to rise to these challenges. I am encouraged by the steady progress made to date, but we're not complacent. We won't stop there. We recognise that further work needs to be undertaken to reach the balanced budget at the end of the year. If I may briefly address the capital situation, the report before you, Leader, and colleagues sets out the latest capital budget. The latest 5-year capital programme is currently forecasted at 691 million. The details for that programme is set out in Appendix 2 of the report and sets out the Council's commitment to invest within Plymouth and the travel to work area to stimulate the economy through our growth agenda. Therefore, the recommendations to Cabinet are set out in the report, Leader, Officers are here to assist with any technical questions, should there be any arising.
Thank you, Ian, for setting out the position. Andrew, David, not sure which one of you has either of you any other comments you wish to add? I know we've already discussed this last week at full council, but picking up the comments from Councillor Darcy, is there anything else you want to add at this stage?
Leader, if I might just say, obviously, as part of the report now, we did make a recommendation, and we accept the recommendation to include the integrated finance report, which is there for noting. And the eagle-eyed amongst you might spot that within the PCC report, the People Directorate is showing a £2.2 million overspend, whereas if you come to this one, it's showing that there's a target there of the 2.2 to bring us back to break even. I think that builds on the comment that Councillor Darcy's making, that we're not sitting on that 2.2 and saying that's a good job given the size of the budgets. We are pushing to get to the break even, and that will flow through. Other than that, I just think Section 2 of the the integrated fund now includes the Better Care Fund and the improved Better Care Fund. I think it's just worth noting that if you look at 16-17 to where we are in 17-18, the size of the fund that we're talking about now, and I think I take this opportunity every time, Leader, to say how well placed we are in Plymouth to use the relationship that we've built up over the years with CCG to actually maximise the benefit from that funding. So just like that to go on record again. And sorry, just picking up on a couple of points that Councillor Darcy said about the main report, particularly within terms of people. We do a lot of cost and volume modelling, but I think the market has sort of stepped ahead of us this year. We weren't forecasting 16% increases in placement costs, and I think that's been the main driver of sort of the focus of what we need to get under control this year. It's about 2 million of the problem. So,
thank you, David. Andrew, anything comment from you from the overall position? Sorry. Yeah. Strategic Director, Andrew, then, let's put it that way.
Yes, too many Andrews around. Sorry, there's too many Andrews around. No, Leader, I haven't got anything further to say. I think the one thing that I would say is that all your officers are working extremely hard to manage the delivery of services as sort of set out in the budget to residents of the city. We are operating in extremely challenging times, as you know, and as officers we are trying everything we can to do to make sure that we can deliver the budget for you within the context of what was set. There are sort of unprecedented sort of demands on services, and particularly as David has alluded to in the integrated fund space. So working with our CCG partners, we're doing everything we can there. But there still remains challenges for us to make sure that we can deliver this, but we're doing everything we possibly can to find the resources to make sure that we can cover these forecast overspends at this point.
Thank you, Andrew. Colleagues, anybody got any particular comments or observations? Perhaps there's just one from me that might provide some comfort. I did get asked to attend a meeting with the Health Secretary in the House of Commons a little while ago, and although it was a private meeting, clearly I can't go into the detail. What did strike me more than anything else is how much further advanced in terms of integration between health and social care we are in this council compared to colleagues in other neighbouring councils and councils further afield. It was a sort of a nationwide trawl of councils, and whilst I'm not crowing, and that's no reason for complacency, it was clear to me anyway that we are certainly not necessarily in the lead, but we're certainly in the advanced party in terms of the road to integration. So I think we can draw some comfort from that, even though we recognise this isn't easy. We just have to keep focused on the pressures that are being flagged up. We all know what those pressures are. but I think members of this cabinet, I think, are absolutely focused on the need to drive those efficiencies as much as we possibly can, even though that background is hugely difficult. And that was a message consistently said by all council leaders to the Health Secretary as well, in terms of funding for adult social care. So, colleagues, then recommendations there are before you on page 43. You've seen them all before. We've done this at full council, as Councillor Darcy pointed out. So can I ask for your support for those recommendations, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. So this time it's the other Andrew. So this is the, welcome Andrew, this is the Corporate Performance Monitoring Report, Quarter 2, matching the Corporate Finance Monitoring Report that we've just discussed. So Andrew, I know this is always a difficult one to try to present this information in a way that's easily understood, but doesn't simplify things to the point whereby it's pointless presenting the information in the first place. So perhaps could I just ask if you could just take through where you see the areas where we need to continue to keep the pressure up and where we need to be focusing on. I know we've spoken earlier around the pressures around delivering social care, but where else does the sort of alarm bells start ringing for you?
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, in terms of the structure of the report, we have split it this time to make it more easily readable in terms of separating out the performance activity and the activity updates for quarter 2. We've also tried to bring in an element of strategic risk as well, in terms of linking the performance highlights to the strategic risk register. In terms of some of the areas of focus, throughout the document we've referenced the organisational priorities, which are improved customer standards, supporting the review for the Care Quality Commission, CQC, improved election services, and improved street services with a work stream around customer satisfaction also. If I move through each of the updates overall for the performance update, we've got 26 indicators that we've reported this month, and 20 of them have shown a measure of improvement, which is encouraging, but there are also some significant challenges, as you mentioned, Leader, that the Council is currently addressing. Within pioneering, it's pleasing to report that we've got an improving situation around timescales for complaint resolution, which we saw a decrease in last quarter, and that's recovered in quarter 2, so that's good. And we've also added in some measures around finance, which has previously been mentioned, and that shows the one really to pull out there is the decline in the investment return. However, that's still above target. In terms of growing, all of the measures are currently on target, but we've added in 2 new measures around the employment rate, which has seen a slight increase in the quarter, and those actually benchmark favourably in terms of England benchmarks and Heart South West. In caring, I think that's where a lot of the pressure is currently at. In terms of, we've seen a decreasing trend in the number of children's safeguarding assessments completed on timescale, within timescale, and the report details plans in place to address this performance issue by quarter 3. And we've also added in additional measures around the whole of the delayed transfers of care indicator, and that's in addition to the ones attributable to adult social care, so that you can get a feel for how the system is performing, which is obviously a challenge, but will be a primary focus of the CQC. We've also added in 2 more measures within caring around homelessness, prevention of homelessness, and also the use of B&B, because that's causing a significant pressure in terms of demand on the council. Then finally, within confident within the performance report, We report a slight fall in the voter registration numbers, and that's obviously linked to the improvement to election services. We've linked the comment, and that's due to some of the canvassing that's been undertaken recently. And then also, we've got some good news in relation to increased recycling rates, which saw an increase in Q2, which was very encouraging. Moving on into the activity updates, 14 of the 19 themes are showing on track, so just under 75% of those. In pioneering, we report against improved customer standards and also preparation towards CQC review. We do have a report some slippage in the design and delivery of the Plymouth survey, which will give us further insight into the views of the people of Plymouth. So that's going to be a key focus over the next few months to get that on track and delivered. In growing, there's a range of activity in terms of delivery of jobs and homes within the city, as well as other major development and strategic transport projects, which in the main are on track. There's one delay in the growing area, which is around the contract to deliver energy efficiency advice and improvements. And this has now been initiated, and that's on page 14. In caring, we mention again the safeguarding, the CQC review, and also the safeguarding improvement plans. The slippage in this area is regard to the delivering the Child Poverty Action Plan, which has seen some delays. And then finally, in Confident, again, the majority of the activity is on track, with activity focused on keeping the city moving, including reopening of Jubilee Road and the removal of bus lanes on Woolwell and Olympic Way. So that's essentially an overview of the corporate plan Q2.
Thank you very much, Andrew. That's really helpful. Colleagues, any questions around your areas of responsibility, in particular as they relate to your portfolio? I think you're all aware. I think this is an improvement yet again, Andrew, and thank you for the work that you've done to try to put this together. I think it does show again a little more clearly, and perhaps it flags up those areas of our work where we could probably predict. We know that improvements need to be made, and we're focusing on those, and that's the whole purpose of this report. If it flags up those areas that we need to look at, then that's exactly what we do. So let me just say to Cabinet members, obviously please take note of this, read this through. Scrutiny colleagues may well ask you to come and explain some various bits and pieces, and so therefore you need to be closely in touch with everything on that. Chief Executive, can I put you slightly on the spot? Can you just take us through now where we're going with the CQC inspection, because obviously that plays very much into the caring report that we've just got before us this afternoon. So can you just sort of take us through the next stage to the end of that inspection?
Yes, very happy to, Leader. The CQC are on site next week. There'll be a team here for a whole week having a look. It's not an inspection, if I can correct you on that. It's a local review of our system for health and social care. So they'll be looking at how the system performs, working with and talking with partners across the whole of the city to understand how that feels to have health and social care services delivered, what's really happening on the ground, and whether we're moving in the right direction. Clearly there's a focus inevitably on delayed transfers of care because that's in terms of our where we are in terms of performance. We're working flat out with partners to make the improvements in the system, and as you can see, we are starting to turn the curve on that. with new facilities and available to residents and to the health and care sector to enable people to live within their communities, to be happy, healthy and at home. That's where we want people. But it's a review of the whole system, so we anticipate them finding some of the good things that we're doing. And I think, Leader, you mentioned how far advanced we are compared to many parts of the country in terms of the integration programme. But you know, inevitably, some parts are moving faster than other parts, so we actually do look forward to this review, look forward to the outcomes of the review and moving further and faster with the journey to improve services for the people of the city. Just while I've got the microphone, I just want to say thank you to Andrew and the team for having a look at how we present this report. I think, like you, Leader, I see this as much clearer, and that focus on the things that are working, but also those areas that we do need to improve. And I think what's equally important is that you've got this on the same agenda as the finance report. So one is how much money we've got or how much money we haven't got, and the other one is what are we doing with the money. So really important that we see those reports together.
Thank you very much, Tracy. I absolutely agree with that, and that's the value of putting these two together. And I think we need to recognise that this is a large and it's a complex organisation, and were everything to be showing green and everything rosy in the garden, I'm not sure people would actually believe us anyway, to be perfectly honest. And I just think, you know, it's utopia to think that every indicator that we look at is always going to be perfect all the time, because life simply isn't like that. But if it flags up where we need to be focusing our attention, then that's the purpose of the report. So, Councillor Nicholson?
Probably just on that point, Leader, if the targets were all very achievable, then we're not really aspiring high enough for our citizens, are we? So it's absolutely right that we have challenging targets, and that's why, you know, there's a balanced report presented to us. And I'm sure, whilst we're not having a massive debate on all the different individual indicators here today, I know that actually all members around this table do challenge on a very regular basis in our departments to make sure that we try to aspire to them all being green, and that we actually do deliver our aspirational agenda for the city.
Yes, absolutely, Patrick. Anyone else want to add anything? Right, let's draw your attention then to the recommendations, which is that Cabinet to note and approve the corporate plan Q2 monitoring reports. Everyone happy?
Great.
Thank you very much. Right, so that is, I think, the last item on the agenda this afternoon. So thank you, officers, for your attendance this afternoon, and thank you, members.
Thank you.